Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalang.
Hare Krishna, welcome to our channel, Bhagavad-gita. Here it is, because we have Bhagavad-gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and my name is Labanga Latika. We are in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita, and if you're new, then I have put playlists for all the previous chapters, because it's actually nice to build up one's understanding of the Bhagavad-gita chapter by chapter. But this is where we are, and Krishna is responding to Arjuna. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Arjuna, his dear friend and devotee, standing on a battlefield just before the greatest battle in the history of the Earth planet, practically speaking, is to start. And Arjuna is doubtful. What am I even doing here? What is this supposed to... And then Arjuna, Krishna, of course, responds by very deeply diving into the very meaning of life. The starting of understanding, we are not this body, which is the first basic understanding, and gradually going through the yoga methods, the activities, the Supreme Lord, of course, Super Soul. And now we're in the 10th chapter, and Arjuna asked, I accept what you are saying. I can see that this is the truth. And this is all there is, but it doesn't end there. So Arjuna's next question is, please tell me in detail of your divine opulences by which you pervade all these worlds. And Krishna says, I will just give you the most, what does he say? Only those which are prominent, because my opulences are limited. That's what Krishna says. So now we're speaking about different things in this world, and Prabhupada was making a comment there that this is not so much for Arjuna's own sake, but for those who are unable to see or accept the concept of a personal God. Then we can see him a little bit indirectly, and at the same time, for those who are, I have to say, eager to see God, this also means whatever you see that is special or magnificent or attractive to the mind or the eyes, or then it reminds you of Krishna. So I'm reading text 26 here. Ashvatha sarva vrikshanang devarshinang chanaradaha gandharvanang chitraratha siddhanang kapilo munihi. Of all trees, I am the banyan tree, and of the sages among the demigods, I am Narada. Of the Gandharvas, I am Chitraratha, and among perfected beings, I am the sage Kapila. So, coming from Sweden and with a background not so much based in the Vedic culture, these names may be more or less new to us, but how to say, we don't just want to enter into a sterile picture where we accept God, but we want to understand the whole background, the whole culture, the whole context with Krishna's appearance. And in this universe, we have the great sages, like someone like Narada. We've spoken about him before. He turns up whenever something special happens. In this universe, Lord Brahma was the first born living entity, but Narada was his son, and he had mental sons. They came from his intelligence. They came out automatically, because that was how the universe started. And Narada, he is nothing but a traveling Sankirtan devotee, which means he goes around and he glorifies Krishna wherever he is. And in the Bhagavatam, whenever something special takes place, somehow Narada Muni turns up. So when we think of the most great among the sages, because the sages are those with deep spiritual knowledge who are also eager to share that with the rest of us. So Narada Muni is absolutely the greatest example of such a person. And the banyan tree, Ashvatha, is one of the highest and most beautiful trees, and people in India often worship it as one of their daily morning rituals. So banyan trees are a little mystical because they They spread in all directions. They have maybe one trunk or stem or what you call it. That's the first one, but it's hard to tell because from the branches you get roots going down and they start new branches, or new trunks. So there's a whole complex which is basically the same tree. Well, they come back in other examples, but here Krishna of the trees is the banyan tree. Amongst the demigods they also worship Narada, who is considered the greatest devotee in the universe. Thus he is the representation of Krishna as a devotee. We spoke about him a little bit, and not just on this planet but in the universe. He travels, he's chanting, as far as I've heard, he's chanting the mantra Radhika Ramana, but I'm not sure. He's chanting names of God, and he's carrying a veena, which is a musical instrument with strings, and he's able to travel on the sound vibration. So when he sings and plays the veena, then he can move through the universe without being hindered by such little obstacles as the space between the planets or something like that. That would make it a little difficult for the rest of us. But Narada Muni, he can travel that way. Yes, the Gandharva planet is filled with entities who sing beautifully, and among them the best singer is Chitraratha. Among the perfect living entities, Kapila, the son of Devahuti, is a representative of Krishna. He is considered an incarnation of Krishna, and his philosophy is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's called Sankhya Yoga, and it basically means you name all the elements in the universe, and the Vedic way of naming them is not how we do it by atom, but they are broader categories like the senses, the sense objects, the mind, and ultimately when Kapila is naming them, ultimately we come to the soul and the super soul, and they are not material elements, but they are significant, and without taking them into consideration we will not be complete. So Sankhya means counting, so we are counting the elements in the universe and ultimately coming to the point where the soul surrenders to Krishna. Later on another Kapila became famous, but his philosophy was atheistic. Thus there is a gulf of difference between them. And I haven't heard of the other Kapila, but Prabhupada he goes into a dialogue with all these aspects that are known or famous or sometimes problematic when we come to devotional service. So he responds to them before we ask the question. I will read another verse, text 27. Uchai Sharavasam Ashvanang Vidhimang Amritod Bhavam Airavatang Gajendranang Naranang Cha Naradhipam. Of horses, know me to be Uchhaisrava, produced during the churning of the ocean for nectar. Of lordly elephants I am Airavata, and among men I am the monarch. Purport. The devotee demigods and the demons Asuras once took part in churning the sea. From this churning, nectar and poison were produced, and Lord Shiva drank the poison. From the nectar were produced many entities, of which there was a horse named Uchhaisrava. Another animal produced from the nectar was an elephant named Airavata. Because these two animals were produced from nectar, they have special significance and they are representatives of Krishna. So yes, if you haven't gotten there, you must also dive into the pages of the Bhagavatam where all these wonderful stories take place, because Bhagavad-gita gives us the principles. Bhagavatam gives us the context, the stories, the background, and we get to know these persons, and every philosophical principle is exemplified by some person in the universe going through some, I was going to say story, and I think story doesn't just mean it's made up, but it means there's a narrative, so we can understand things. And at one point here in the universe, they wanted to produce the nectar, the Amrit, which the demigods have access to, and they drink this nectar, and therefore they have very long lives. And at that time, they wanted to churn the milk ocean. And as every planet, we have saltwater oceans. I'm listening to Srila Prabhupada's classes, lectures that he gave while he was here with us. And they are so, fortunately, they are recorded. And I found them on the internet just by Googling them. Classes, audio, online. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And they were all there. And I'm listening to this descriptions of the universe. And he was there. He was newly come to America, just been there a year or two. And he's speaking about the pages from the Bhagavad-gita, the pages from the Bhagavatam, to his young followers who don't know so much. And he's saying, just like on this planet, we have an ocean of salt water. So on another planet, there is an ocean of milk. And that is the residence of one of the Vishnu incarnations in this universe. And then at that point, they wanted to churn this ocean. And how do you churn an ocean? I mean, you can churn yogurt or cream to get milk, to get butter. We know that. But how do you churn an ocean? So Krishna is there at every step. He's Vishnu, so he appears in his tortoise incarnation so that they have something to, where the churning rod can rest on. Because you can't just, throw it into the ocean. So it rests on this tortoise incarnation's back. And in this way, he's enjoying the sensation of having his back scratched. And then there is a great serpent in the universe, whose name eludes me at the moment. They use him as the churning rope. And then the demigods take one end and the demons take the other end. And demons and demigods, we're not just being, rude to the demons, but they are two groups in the universe. They are called Devas and the Daityas, and they come from different family lineage, and they also have different attitudes to the universe. The demigods have a high position in the universe because they are trusted representatives of Krishna, taking care of different aspects of the creation. But here they have to cooperate because it's such a great task, and they are both thinking, well, let's do it now, but in the end we will take care of the results. So that is going on there. But from this churning of the ocean, first some poison comes up, and this poison is so dangerous in the universe. But then Lord Shiva, who is also not just a demigod, but he holds his own specific position in the universe, he, out of his kindness, he agrees to swallow that poison so it won't harm anyone else, and he is strong enough to withstand it. But his neck turned blue. Yes, we are not reading the whole Bhagavatam, but when these stories comes up, what can you do? You have to touch on them a little bit. But please, whenever you have the opportunity, study the Bhagavatam, visit with the devotees and hear the Bhagavatam classes together. But of course, we base it on our understanding of the Bhagavad-gita, because otherwise it would just sound like stories. So first we have to have some understanding of who we are, who is Krishna, and then it is not so wonderful that Krishna has this universe that he's created, and it contains more than us. The universe is more than us. It's more than getting up in the morning, going to work, complaining about the petrol prices, and looking forward to the weekend. It's a lot more than that. So we have this planet, which we can have some kind of understanding of, but the universe has more than that. So we have this special horse, Shrava, and Airavata is a very special elephant. He has 8 legs, he's white, he has many trunks, and he is the carrier of Indra Dev, who is the king of the demigods. Amongst the human beings, the king is the representative of Krishna, because Krishna is the maintainer of the universe. And the kings, who are appointed on account of their godly qualifications, are maintainers of their kingdoms. Kings like Maharaj Yudhishthir, Maharaj Parikshit, and Lord Rama were all highly righteous kings who always thought of the citizens' welfare. In Vedic literature, the king is considered to be the representative of God. In this age, however, with the corruption of the principles of religion, monarchy decayed and is now finally abolished. It is to be understood that in the past, however, people were more happy under righteous kings. So, I think we have the term of servant leader. If somebody has a position of responsibility, in order to live up to that responsibility, it has to be a balance between caring about those you are responsible to, those who answer to you. And if you're a king, that's the whole country. We speak about the praja. Those who are born in that country, they have the right to be protected by the king. And also the king is responsible towards those who lead him. Which means if he represents Krishna, then he has to understand the spiritual science. And as a king, he may not have that ability to absorb his peaceful mind in the knowledge of the Shastras at the same level as a Brahmana would. So he would surround himself with Brahmanas to guide him. And nowadays, when we look at countries that are run in a, what do you call it, theocratic way, we are usually not very impressed. Because, as Prabhupada is also mentioning, in this age of Kali, that system has kind of broken down. When the Brahmanas lost their purity, the Kshatriyas, the kings, lost respect for them, and therefore their ruling is without guidance. And therefore they are not able to fulfill their responsibility of protecting their people, which are not just the human beings. Anyone who takes birth in the kingdom has the right to be protected by the king. So if you are following Krishna's instruction, then you have a responsibility to make sure everybody in your kingdom is happy. And this is very difficult, but at least we can go we should be able to go far enough to make sure anyone in your kingdom is not killed for economical reasons. We cannot have slaughterhouses. This is not right. And we can also not have a galloping capitalism where the profit margin is the only thing that matters. This is simply not right. So therefore, the rulers of the kingdom have to understand the spiritual science, and they have to be able to lead the citizens in such a way that they are protected and guided. It's not supposed to be a dictatorship. It's supposed to be a setup where there's room for everybody to be who they are safely, and at the same time to be very connected and that the distance to taking up spiritual life is not really there. It's always available. So we don't see these kings. So we see the kind of kings we see them in a newspaper when they are wasting money, driving fast cars, or having some scandal or other, or in general being mostly useless figureheads. So a Vedic king is not supposed to be like that. He's not supposed to be a dictator, and he's not supposed to be a parasite on society. He has a position because he has been trained to it, and he has taken up a responsibility, and it is within the context of understanding this world as a place where we have to live, we have to cooperate, and we have to have the opportunity for spiritual self-realization in God consciousness. So it's very interesting. It's worth studying. It's difficult to, we cannot stand up tomorrow and say, from now on, we're going to make a revolution and have righteous kings. But we can understand the principles, and we can apply them on our own scale. We can apply, because the most important thing is not to have a king. The king is there in order to protect our life, so that we are able to live peacefully and happily, safely, and also connect to spiritual Krishna consciousness. So we're not there, but Krishna consciousness is also not dependent on the king. But if we have that king, which we don't, then it will make life easier. And when we don't have that king, at least it is even more important to take our spiritual self-realization very seriously. So yes, that's all I can say today. I thought I would read through more of these verses because they're very nice and poetic, and I feel one can go through them pretty quickly, but they were points and I thought they were interesting. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for watching. We aim for updates every Tuesday and Friday. Please come back. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down there. We also have some links and information for you. And there is, of course, the subscribe button. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I'm a Hare Krishna, and I approve this message. Subscribe.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.